Hello, discuss all the latest movies and news from the world of horror. Joining me tonight, as always, for this special occasion is my co-host Ian. Ian, are you there?
I hope so.
I do as well. How have you been?
I have been decent.
Well, that's about the best we can hope for in this world. Being decent. Hope everything goes well. As we are here for, as I mentioned, a very special occasion as we hit another milestone in the show, episode 400. And it has been a while coming. Episode 300 was February 24th, 2023. So here we are, a few years later, and our review that time, as we do again with our milestone episodes, we always do something special. And during that review, we did a review of Mascara Diablo, which was a Boneyard episode. And here we are, 100 episodes later, and we're doing another Boneyard episode for our marathon, for our Monsters Day marathon. And it has been we've discussed a lot of our history already over the shows. I think we even discussed it on episode 300. But it's always nice to look back and just recollect and just see, our progression as we do over the years and how we've, I wouldn't say grown, but just like how we managed to veer the show in different directions from where it started to where it went to where it is now. And so it's had its ebb and flow, and it's always, no matter what it is, whether it's a review, an interview, um, from years prior to now, it's always fun, and I'm happy to share it with my friend Ian here, who, again, we discussed it before, but we just met on a rainy Saturday evening at a
Yeah.
little small town convention, and it just blossomed from there. And it's just been fun talking all these horror films and talking to people and having our marathon shows and just shooting the shit back and forth for an hour or 2 hours sometimes. And it's just always great just to, have my buddy there to talk horror films with, because
Yeah.
personally, there's not a lot of people near me that I'm able to go back and forth with on a constant basis, just like shoot back and forth movies and quips and all the fun stuff that you would have if you had like a group of friends for like a movie night. And for some reason, I just live that with Ian whenever we have our Boneyard episodes where we can't. There's no other. You can't watch it on Tubi. You have to stream it, um, screen share it, and it's just a movie night, just hanging with my buddy. I don't get to do that too often. We've only watched one movie together personally, and just to have these interactions, talking back and forth, and just enjoying the camaraderie of the show is just like keeps me wanting to move forward and keep doing episodes, because it's just like I'm always having fun. I'm always having fun discovering these films, like tonight's film, and everything else that I've discovered over the years for Boneyards, for all the marathon shows, just all these films coming out that we discuss. And it's always fun just to go back and forth with you, buddy. And I just wanted you to know that. And it's always, we had a rough start because we didn't know where we wanted the show to go, but then we finally found our footing, and we just managed to hit the road, and we're smooth sailing, and we're just having fun, no worries. Just let's just review a movie. It doesn't matter. Let's just do something, and I'm glad to have you along with it, and how we've grown over the years. Again, from your upbringing and how you started out, basically just like not that much of a you watched horror here and
Yeah.
there, to again to just watching stuff like tonight, which not a normal person would sit through, but you have to really have to have the balls to sit through something like tonight. Which again, we'll get into it. It's not bad per se. It's just there's certain spoilers I don't want to get into for tonight's episode just yet. But it's just like stuff like that where we have like this bond of like, yep, we have balls of steel. We're able to just sit there and just persevere through some stuff. I'll just say that much. But we also, we had our downships. We lost a lot of episodes during the blog talk fiasco a few years back, which caused us to come over to YouTube to stream. So there is that a few, a couple, I don't know, I guess 100, the 2017 into 2018 era episodes. Those are few and far between. Some are completely gone because Blog Talk decided, you know what, we're going to shut down without telling anybody. So if you no reason to prepare to download your old shows, we're just going to shut down in a moment's notice. And that was a kick in the balls.
Yeah.
So and during that period, I was trying to download and upload to YouTube, and I was trying to do that for like some of the marathons of the years, like 2020. I still have a few left. 2021, 2023, not 20. Before we went, live streamed, I was trying to get a bunch of those shows uploaded to YouTube, and where Ian has most of the files, it's kind of hard to pass them back and forth. So a lot of the past uploads that I was used to doing kind of hit a standstill, and I apologize for that because I've been trying, that's one thing I wanted to do is get a lot of the back episodes uploaded, because there is some good, some good shows and reviews that we did in the past that I'd like to get up there and finish some of the playlists that we have that I've worked on over the years. It's just been difficult because, again, Ian has the hard drive with all the shows on it from those years that we're able to keep. And
yeah, I need to probably just mail it to you.
Yeah, that'd probably be the best way. Or
Yeah.
if we meet up somewhere in due time, maybe a convention down the road, because Scarefest is coming up. We can always do something like that where if you wanted to make the trip out and like, hey, we can meet up in person. It's been over 10 years, but I'm just saying, like, I've been trying to work and keep the show moving, to keep the Instagram going by throwing like random, horror DVDs up there, Blu-rays. I'm on Letterboxd, doing reviews that way. I'm always trying to keep the show going, or just keep reviews going. In that sense, when we're not doing actual live streams, I'm kind of the person behind all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, I enjoy the back and forth aspect of me and Ian just coming together and watching these movies. And it's always been fun. And I've never really had a bad time unless the movie was terrible. But even then, we're able to go into a whole nother realm of us just going off on it. And so either or, if the film's bad or the film's good, we still manage to have fun out of it. And that's what you want. And that's how like the longevity has been for the show all these years. Even the downs where we lost a lot of shows, we still persevered. And a lot of people like, well, screw this. But no, we took it on the chin and powered through and moved on and came out stronger at the end. Now that we don't have time constraints on us like we did with Blog Talk, 45 minutes and you're done. Like now we can just go on for hours, which we've mentioned before previously on another, prior shows, back when the whole fiasco happened. But yeah, it's just fun to keep the show going. And like, again, 400 is a pretty big milestone. I mean, it's not, again, for me, it's amazing because like I've been able to keep this going for so long.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed it. And I have one of the best sidekicks around that's just right there with me in the passenger seat for these movies that we sat through. And I couldn't ask for a better co-host. So Ian, I'll let you take the floor for a while and give your opinions on everything, and then we'll get into tonight's Monsters Day episode.
Yeah, 400 episodes is insane. Like, even just like watching it slowly creep up, it just didn't kind of hit me until like I was making the show and I typed in 400, and it just like all of a sudden just like this flood of like thoughts and feelings and just like where we started, because this was supposed to be just for me to talk about my little horror movie night I was running at a comic shop. And when that when I decided to end that, and kind of all the crap that happened with that, it was just we kind of just like didn't know where to go from there. And then was just like, well, let's just start reviewing things. And that's when I started like really hardcore watching like stuff on Hulu, because Hulu had like the weirdest horror movies. Now it's Tubi. It's just crazy to like all the platforms that have like come and gone and over the years, and how we went from Blog Talk Radio to now just doing YouTube. It's been a really long and wild ride. And I mean, like 13 years to do this. And I mean, we probably would have been hit that a while ago, but there was that one year where like we were trying to do mostly just new horror movies. And what was it? 2013 or whatever, when there was like nothing coming out. And we're just like, let's just start reviewing old stuff, or let's dive deeper into indie horror more. Yep. And I was like, honestly, I think that was this show's defining moment, was when we played around with a bunch of different stuff, and now we kind of just mostly do indie horror and not too many old stuff. But also like we don't really do a whole lot of like in theaters all that often either. But just watching,
we're still trying to add like a few more like ideas to the show. Like we still like, we've only done Ian's first time back when Street Trash Remake came out. We still got to do a few things like that, integrate it into the show, get some double reviews, because again, I've watched a lot of the classics. Ian's still probably missing out on a few, so I always like to integrate new ideas. And like there's a lot of stuff that Ian would probably want to discuss for the first time on the show that I've seen over the years, probably more than once. So I've always liked to get new opinions, first time opinions, first time reactions. So there's like new ideas, and of course like we're trying our best with like the interviews and stuff like that. I mean, they come and go, we do our best with the interviews, the indie interviews, and it works for our advantage when they do happen, and I'm happy that they happen. Because I always like to learn about the process of such low budget indie horror, because that's again what I was more raised upon than like the mainstream stuff. Like I went to it, but I was always in the video store or the rental shops looking at like the new releases, and like they had like they had rows, the shelving, but they had them faced out. And like you look at it, and like there's the newer stuff, the new release stuff, and then like you go further down, and then you get like the weird stuff. Like, well, at the time it was weird, but now it's kind of went on. But like Ginger Dead Man, Legend of the Sand Squatch, just a bunch of that stuff that you would see on Tubi that like littered the video store. So like honestly, like I mean, Tubi's sort of like the video store, whereas like you see all the posters and like, oh, that sounds fun, and you read it and look at the pictures and like, oh man, this looks terrible, this looks bad, but I want to watch it. And that's how it was with my video store that closed down in 2017 or 2018. I think it was either 2017 or 2018. It shut down. It was like a few weeks after a cure for wellness came out, they shut down. But like every again, I mentioned this before, probably in a few times on the show, but they had a monthly $2.50 250 DVD drop bin where like all their old rentals for the beginning of the month they get rid of them for 250, and I just scoop them up, and there's just like all kinds of weird stuff and like some stuff that I'm probably going to talk about tonight. Um, in relevance to the movie we're going to be reviewing, but like they just like kept me with like the low budget indie stuff that I just like enjoyed watching. You know, there were a lot of bad, you know, like Blade of the Vampire, um, The Feeding, The Mailman. You know, just a bunch of like lower budget, you know, Freak Out. You know, just all these lower budget slashers and monster movies. Cerberus, Rise of the Gargoyles, a lot of the Maneater series I got there. So I was
Yeah.
just kind of like entranced with all the low budget horror stuff, and um, whereas kind of like again my bread and butter, you know, like again I appreciate the genre of horror. All you know, no matter if it's mainstream, low budget, indie stuff that has no budget, shot in someone's backyard. I don't care. I'll watch it. I'm an equal opportunist when it comes to horror. I appreciate the genre, and I think that's like it shows in our caliber of where I'm able to like see things and how they can do things differently in like reviews and stuff, and you know able to take that like again my history, you know, of you know being well versed in the genre and Ian's sort of comeuppance and
Yeah.
his natural flow into becoming a more in-depth fan of the genre, and it kind of like again good pairing off of going back and forth.
Yeah, because I get, like trying back in the day, like I always had an interest in horror, but like I just, didn't really know where to start because most of the people around me weren't in the genre, and I couldn't make it out to the video stores all that often. And when I could, I just, wanted to watch what I knew because I would try to pick horror movies, and I was like, I never knew where to go. And so, just going from that to what, you know, I've been, like what we've been doing with the show has just been like a major eye opening experience because, like, there was a lot of movies, like a ton of movies I hadn't even seen and still haven't. Mostly because this show keeps me busy with watching, you know, watching 1 to 2 horror movies, which in the beginning we did 2 horror movies a night. So for like what, the first 200 episodes?
Yeah,
So
and news and a bunch of other stuff like that.
yeah, so we got like, you know, I got I got pretty well versed by now of watching some of the most interesting movies, to say the least,
Yeah,
from
pretty
like,
absurd stuff.
yeah, some
Like
things some
I
people
put you
never
in the
even
deep
watch.
end. Yeah, I put you in the deep end pretty quick.
Yeah, like, because that's what I, in the beginning, that's kind of what I did, was just like watch movies like, zombie ass, Toilet of the Dead, um like, like Wild Zero I watched for this movie, or this, because of this. And like, it was just so many movies that like kind of just opened the door for other movies, and it's just crazy. And I definitely have fallen in love with the genre because I always wanted to, and I'm glad like I started to, that horror movie night and it was a way for me to and not only really did it just to watch like newer horror movies and get other people to bring in movies so we could like share and grow our movie taste. And it's been a wild journey. 400 episodes later, and we're still going strong. We're still watching things that like like the movie tonight.
We're watching stuff that the most hardened horror fan would really have a hard time. They would struggle with it.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff, especially with these Boneyard episodes. They're good sometimes, and then they're bad sometimes, and then we managed to really sink our teeth into our Boneyard episodes, and because again, the whole point of the Boneyard is to bring these unknown, rare, and obscure movies back to the surface because they were released and forgotten, or something happened to them, and now they're rare and hard to find. And there's like no information on them most of the time. And I always wanted to just I wanted to get these films. Like, why am I the only one that gets, there's not that many people out there that's seen them. Like, I need to discern, the information and make it more widely known. And that's the whole point of the Boneyard when we first started doing them, with like the human virus, and then like how the director came out of the woodwork and like I loved your review. I'm gonna go back out there. I'm gonna start directing, and it's like that's kind of what we wanted. We kind of wanted to like learn more and like get the people, like go out there and watch it. And like then he released it, and I think it's like on Tubi now. You can watch the human virus. And again, at the time of that review, you couldn't find it. It was just a DVD, and I think it was maybe on a YouTube channel, on his YouTube channel. So it was very, not well known. And then after our review, now look at it, it's like boom, you can watch it on streaming now. And his other films, Tales from Appalachia, and there's just like you always want, to try to get the word out there for like these lower budget films that like, because the human virus, it was actually pretty good, pretty solid for what it was. And it sucks that there's like no one's talking about it. And it was just like a solid little virus movie. And just to go from there, and like all the other episodes that we did for the Boneyard, and how, again, my magic that I work finding them, because not a lot of people is going to go out of their way to go after Homeless Joe like I did, or all the other films that we discussed over the years on the Boneyard. It's just I'm just a very hardened person when it comes to the horror genre that really wants to save these films and just like get some kind of word out there on them. And again, there's, for tonight's episode as well, there's little information on there, not much, but there's some. But it needed, it worked within our confines of the marathon. And it's just like every now and then, every marathon we do, always try to throw in a Boneyard. And it just fit, like, okay, this sounds interesting, let's do that. But yeah, 400 is amazing, and it's been a thrill and always something new every time we do these shows, because again, we don't know what we're in store for with these reviews, whether it be, our mini marathons or just whatever films that we decide to choose. It's always, you're always you're always in line for something amazing or something bad. And just to have a partner there to talk horror with and share the memories and the good times and the bad times and just shoot the shit. Again, like I said before, I couldn't ask for a better co-host and someone that's right there in the passenger seat with me for all these years.
Buddy. It's been a wild ride.
Yep, a wild ride and many interesting characters along the way, especially tonight. But I think that's going to do it for our long-winded look back at episode 400 over the years. And like I said, I kind of knew we would go a little bit long in the beginning, but when you have a milestone, you kind of just want to talk a little bit. And for those just listening, maybe they haven't heard about our past, and Maybe it'll give us some incentive to go back and listen to some of the old episodes and over the years and some newer stuff, and check out a bunch of the older Boneyards and find something interesting to listen to for an hour, 2 hours at most. Um, but yeah, it's just fun. Again, just to have someone there, just talk horror, and that's what we're gonna do right now as we get into our Monsters Day Boneyard special. And as with all Boneyards, you have to do a little digging to get some information on the film. And again, there's a little information, not much, but there's some, as I mentioned. Um, Tonight's film is called Sacrifice and is from 2010, directed by Bob Nelson. Um, Basically, Bob wanted to go out and create like a 50s monster kaiju movie. Um, but again, it's modern time at the time of the film when he made it, 2010, 2009, around that area when he was filming it, and he just wanted to make a throwback, nostalgic sort of kaiju monster movie. And again, we're looking at 2010 here, so there's a lot of limitations around this time, and so again, we're gonna have to look at this at a grain of salt when we get into the hard and deeper aspects of the film. But yeah, the the DVD itself was only made through Amazon Made on Demand. And Ian, if you want to pop it up, the DVD. But yeah, it was only available through Amazon on Demand. And for some reason, I don't know how, but like the copy I have's limited to 100 and it's autographed. I don't know exactly by who. It could be Bob. It could be someone else related to the film. But again, I have no idea, especially like if it was made on demand through Amazon. I don't know how like 100 of them, I guess the first 100 were signed. I don't know, maybe, but if it's manufactured through Amazon, that means Amazon had to print them and put the disc in there and do all the stuff in the facility itself. So I have no idea how that came about. Maybe it was a perk or something around that time, but nonetheless, my copy is signed and limited to 100, even though it is manufactured by Amazon. It has the little manufactured by Amazon on the barcode. And again, I found it, as I always do, through eBay. But at the time of this recording, there is a copy on Amazon available for like $6 and something. So for those that listen to this show and want to watch the film yourself, snag it while you can. If you want to. After we go further into details, you might not want to. That's up to you, but I'm just throwing it out there because again, DVDs are rare. It does seem like it's available to rent or buy on Amazon through Prime. If I knew that, maybe it would have been easier to do that instead of screen sharing it. But still, I don't think we would have the same interaction if we watched this by ourselves, because that was a shared experience.
Oh yeah.
So that's about the gist of what I can really get into. I mean, there's like one review on another site that goes further into depth about the film, but I figured that's their review. We're doing our own, so I don't really want to, just that was way back in 2014 when that review happened. So it's been still a little over 10 years since that review. So there's like been no interaction on this film. But I guess we'll just go ahead and get into Sacrifice, and you can put up the main poster again. And Sacrifice, honestly, for what it is, like I mentioned, it is a throwback to those 50s sci-fi creature features, where it's trying to introduce a subplot of like the future of like new weapons, new weaponry, just something new basically to introduce. And there's like side effects of said weapon. And this weapon, it's not really per se a weapon, but the government is releasing a new satellite called the STOM 1, STOM 1, and it is able to take pictures or I wouldn't say X-rays, but like topographical imagery below the Earth's surface. And because basically they're going to use the satellite to search for weapons of mass destruction and just like weaponry and all kinds, like mainly like the main thing that they find here is plutonium. So a lot of the higher end grade weaponry, stuff that's used for weapons and bombs and atoms and stuff like that. And so like they use the satellite, they like release it into space. There's a big speech commencement ceremony where they release this STOM 1, and within due time we're introduced to Kyle and Otzi. They're a couple, and Kyle is I believe he is a archaeologist, or one of them's an archaeologist and one's an anthropologist. Because Kyle, he's the one that does like all the experiments, and he's able to do all the weaponry and scientific things. And his girlfriend Otzi is more of the history major and knows about the ancestry of the town and specific things. And she's doing this thesis on Aztec culture, where she's talking to a certain individual that sort of comes into play later on in the film with a certain character, and where she's wanting to learn more about, again, the history of the Mayan culture. And he's like saying sometimes it's best to live in the future and not in the past, because you don't know what you might find. And so at the same time, that's when we're introduced to Colonel Lin, who, the results of the satellite, they found plutonium in the Arizona desert, and they need help to go down there with Kyle to look for said plutonium. And while they're doing a bunch of, again, military mumbo jumbo, basically. They're drilling down to find the plutonium. They're using cameras and all kinds of stuff to find this plutonium. And they go down with the cameras. He takes Atsi along, and with the cameras, they find it's man-made walls, and not because like a lot of the surface is like, because like if it's supposed to be like, it's more straight line than it is, because the Earth is nothing, it's like nothing straight with the Earth. And so like this was like, it's all straight man-made walls. And so they break through the walls, and they find that it's hollow, and it's sort of like this chamber underground. And they decide to go down there to find what is in this cavern. And so it's Kyle and two other soldiers, military soldiers, that go down into the tunnels, the drill tunnel, into this open area. And they find, because they see there's this wall, and there's these ruins with these ancient texts written on them, like runes, like runestones on this wall. And a lot of the stuff is like, they get down there, they have their little lights on their head, they have their cameras, and they find that it's like a warning, do not enter, basically. But they proceed to enter, of course. And that's where they find this, it's not a corpse, but a body with this mask on it, sort of a ancient mummy. And there is a scroll as well beside of the body. And Kyle basically removes the mask off the body, which comes alive, which then releases an ancient creature from its slumber. And then said creature comes and makes its reawakening on the surface and starts wreaking havoc. And that is about the gist of the movie I want to give away right now, which will go into spoilers a little bit later. But overall, listen, this movie has its fair share of flaws. I mean, this is a first time feature from Bob, and it's something that he had sort of a passion to really do. And like I think the script for the movie and the lead up to everything was actually pretty sufficient, because I was intrigued by the ancient history of the Mayan culture, and just like the satellite and how it's able to look underneath the ground and find the plutonium. And like I thought it was written pretty well. The thing is, like, again, the acting is a little, it's hit and miss. A lot of it's very basic, like, Colonel, the creature is moving, we need to do something about it. It's like very like they're reading off pages, and literally there is parts where you see a certain character read off pages. You can see him stare down, stare back up at the camera. So it's very hit or miss when it comes to some of the acting portrayed in the film. But again, we're looking at it as a film, and again, a lot of people's not going to really get behind the film because the acting's bad. It's kind of cheap looking because the sets are basically like I wouldn't say it's a sheet, but it's like it's close enough to where it's a sheet in the background, or like a tent, like tent covering or something like that in the background. And it's just like one, central location. Here's a desk and a computer. We're going to stand here in this location. We're trying to make most of our space, useful space, to try to get some out of it. And again, it's a very limited budget. I think it's like $20,000. So it's very small budget. But it's like, the thing is like, I think the story being told is told pretty good because I was involved with it. Even after the reveal of the creature, I was still involved with it because I liked the story and everything that was going on, and like what exactly sacrifice has to be made, as the said title of the movie, as the film progressed into the finale. Now the finale is a little bit hit or miss. I mean, honestly, it's more of a miss. But I don't want to get into spoilers just yet. But again, I liked aspects of it. I mean, the bad thing is the audio is terrible. There's a lot of poor editing choices where someone's talking and then it quick cuts to another scene, and like the audio's slow, not slow, but lower than it just was, and then it cuts back. There's just a lot of very freshman directorial mistakes. And again, you take that and you learn with it as you go on. So hopefully Bob did that in his other projects, because this one is like very low grade, very indie, very just like freshman. And I say that in all due respect because, like, again, it's not the worst acting per se, but a lot of people is going to be hard pressed to make it through because, oh my God, I can't stand this. Like, again, me and Ian, over the years, we've sat through some stuff. And this one, again, it didn't really affect me because, again, you look at acting, it is what it is. I mean, especially given the low budget aspect of the film and the indie nature of the film. This one, it didn't. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, the flaws, they're wearing them right on their sleeve. I mean, you can't look past it. That's the one thing about the film. The flaws are there, and they're sufficiently there. I mean, you can't. Once the reveal of the monster, you pretty much know what to expect. And like, if you can't stand the acting and like the especially like when they're going down the drill tunnel and like they're all sitting there like there's on this conveyor, not the conveyor, but like the little cart that they're on, and like they're not even on it, and so they're moving the camera right to left to act like they're going down, even though they're just setting and legs wrapped around one another. And then later on, they actually show the little cart that they're on, and you can see someone pulled away with the string. So it's like you have to really grin and bear it for a lot of the film. And again, as I said, like I like the history and I like the nature. I like the mask aspect of everything. It's just again, you have to look at it in rose-colored glasses, and just like there, at least there was some semblance of like trying, because like he really tried with the story. Because I thought the story was pretty solid, given everything and the low budgetness and the audio issues and the editing issues and the volume issues and the music being louder than the dialogue most of the time. There was a lot of issues in that regard. It's very, like I said, freshman, where it's just like, freshman film class trying to put together something. You want to have like this, and there's a lot of just audio cues that are just not working, and like the editing choices are all over the place, and it's just like it's messy, but it's like it's well thought out and put together. But there's like some parts where like the audio's like way louder than the dialogue, and you can't hear what certain characters are saying, especially towards the later act. But with that, even that said, the monster aspect of it, I mean, there's a lot to be desired, but it's just he's trying, given the limitations. And again, that's going to be the point that's going to throw a lot of people off. If they can make it through the dialogue and the audio and the sound mixing, once the reveal of the creature or monster, that's going to make or break you. And again, if you are a fan of like the early Sci-Fi Channel premieres, like Pterodactyl, I bring that up because we'll be talking about it here shortly. Um, if you know, like the way that, like, again, they used the CGI during like those monster movies, so it gives you an idea. But again, that came a few, many years later, and it still looks a little better than whatever they used, computer program he used for the creature in this one. But again, I still like the story. I still like it wasn't bad. I mean, it just it doesn't really. There's just a lot of issues with it for a first time feature, and it definitely shows. And if you're not into low budget, if you can't handle that type of stuff, and you can't handle bad acting and cheap acting, and just like, I wouldn't even say stage play, I'd say high school play acting, you wouldn't really be into the vibe of this one. Even though the story is good, there's just a lot of, again, technical, just like basic, elementary issues with the film. And even though there's some good parts, you just have to go through a lot of misses to still gather some enjoyment out of the film. But Ian, I'll give you your thoughts, and then we'll go back and forth.
Yeah, yeah, it was a kind of a difficult watch. The stiff acting. I mean, the lore was pretty decent. I enjoyed that. And like, just the world building was pretty good, but it was a little rough. And it didn't help that I was already like really tired. So it's kind of, I was just sitting there just like, like trying to pay attention and stuff, but the stiff acting, the audio issues, it was kind of hard to stay focused a little bit. Um, but when I saw the monster, I I perked up a lot because I was like, that's funny. But it's like it's not that bad. It's really not. We've definitely seen way worse. But I was like, when I saw the monster, I was like, wow, that's about right there with Beaster Day. And I was like, okay, that's not. I was like, no, this is fine. But yeah, I mean, it was a pretty solid, straightforward movie. Uh, it does have its flaws, um, but what you know, indie horror doesn't have its flaws. Like it's just it comes with the territory because you don't have like a ton of executives that are like, hey, maybe you should fix this, plus budget and time constraints and everything that a big budget can handle, you know, a lower budget usually can't, which is why, like I, we always say we are a lot harder on like movies that have a bigger budget, a way bigger budget, like your, Quiet Place and stuff like that, opposed to like these little, films, is because these little ones are doing their best with what they have and what they can afford. And, you know, that's just what it boils down to. It's like, these little things, yes, they have their problems, they have their flaws, but that doesn't take away from the enjoyment of the movie all that often because it it's part of their little charm. But, you know, I'm glad that, this movie was made and they did a really decent job, and I want to see what they have done since then.
Yeah, because again, like when he went to make this, from what I looked up, because he wanted to make an interesting monster, and like, of course, he went back to, like I said, the kaiju heyday of, but he turned out the script, and I think again, it was a, it's a, it's a well enough script. Because again, where it leads, it's a very short watch. It's like an hour and 6 minutes, so you're in and out, and they keep things going pretty steadily. And even though it takes a while to set up the build up to the reveal of the monster, I think the reveal of the monster is like 40 some minutes into the film. I mean, and plus there's like very few instances of the monster as well. I mean, you get a few moments, but it's not full on monster. It's just like here and there. It's more the lore of the Mayans, and again, maybe that's given some stuff away of what we're going to be talking about in spoilers of what the creature might be. But like, the lore, the Mayans, and like, Otzi telling like the backstory of all the stuff that was in the tunnel, not the
Oh, Havoc's been having some internet issues, but kind of until he gets back, just hop off, on to what we were talking about. Like, yeah, this movie, it's a uh, hold on, seeing asking him what happened. Well, until he gets he said his internet didn't go out, but kind of just lost him. But these little indie movies, they're always like a hit or miss, and sometimes they're a pretty big miss. Sometimes they're like unexpected. And I'd say one of my favorite um like probably one of my most favorite memories of watching some of these like indie movies was um watching this psychological werewolf movie by Michael Taylor Pritt. And you know, it's just, you never know with these little movies. You're going to get something like, gold, like what, like I said, like Michael Taylor Pritt and his little psychological werewolf movie, which was such a unique and interesting like take on the werewolf genre. And then you get crap like Amityville Vibrator, where it's like 30 minutes is just like tripping balls in the woods and for no reason. So yeah, welcome back.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened there. But yeah, like I think he managed to again make do with what he had, with his limitations,
Most definitely.
and that's just like again, your dedication is more charming than anything. Like some people go, like you said, they go out there and sometimes they just churn out something for their own amusement, and sometimes there's more passion and a heart behind it, and that's what I felt like this one is. Like he's trying his hardest, but again, the limitations, there's a ceiling and he can't get past it, and it's a very low ceiling, and he's trying his best with everything he has, but it's again very baby steps, as they say, and there's definitely filled with flaws, and you really have to grind your teeth and persevere past it to still get like an enjoyment out of the story being presented. Because again, I think it did well with the story of the lore, the Mayans, and just like what it eventually circumvents towards the end of everything, the ritual, I'll say just yet. And then like I like the military aspect of it. Again, they're trying. I'll say that much. But like again, it's just you get a group of people together and you just try to make something, and that's what this felt like. Like he wanted to go out there, do this. I wouldn't say a throwback, but do his version of that 50s sci-fi kaiju monster movie. And should he have done it with a person in a suit? Possibly, but he decided to go the digital effects route with our creature at hand. And Ian, I don't think we can really go any further because we really do have to talk about spoilers, and I think it's about that time. So the creature itself is the Quetzalcoatl. It is a Quetzalcoatl, as seen in Q the Winged Serpent, and even another sci-fi film, Lost Treasure of the Grand Canyon. That one had Shannon Doherty, and it was all that came out 2 years prior, 2008. This was 2010. Of course, Lost Treasure of the Grand Canyon. It is what it is. It wasn't the biggest fan of it. Of course, Q the Winged Serpent is a classic. Larry Cohen. I don't know if have you seen Q the Winged Serpent, Ian? We might have to rectify that.
I have not.
Yeah, we might have to rectify that. Evans, they do, it's loose in, I believe, New York, and it's fun for what it is, and you can see the differences, obviously. But it's a ancient Aztec killer bird creature that gets loose, and basically the plutonium is emanating off of its skin, off of its body. And there's a little bit of plutonium on the mask that was on the corpse. There's like in the forehead, sort of a ring, protruding ring area. And that's what, it's like, well, it can't be this. There's some, but there's not much. But that, again, in turn unleashes the monster once they remove the mask, and whatever incantation is spoken after the mask is removed unleashes the creature. And honestly, there's no justified way to get to the creature. Ian, I believe it is time for the reveal of Mr. Q. There is our creature. And it is digitally imposed, computer generated effects. It is very cheap looking, very, where did this program come from? Like I said, this is the part where it's going to either make or break you. And when I was looking forward to the reveal of everything once it got there and everything was happening, like, oh, finally, 45 minutes into the movie, we're going to have the monster. What's it going to look like? Of course, we don't know anything about it. And then we get that. And look at his little legs. His legs are so tiny. They're like little T-Rex arms, but legs. And it's just, it is hard pressed because you have such a intriguing, a well enough story and script, and you're interested in it. And again, the whole trek to go into the tunnel and the ritualistic chamber and like all that stuff was, the wall with the runes on it. And then we get this, and then it's like, bless your heart. You're just looking at like, bless your heart, you tried. It's like you're looking at a 5-year-old do the hand turkey and like, well, at least you tried. They didn't do their best, but hey, you're 5-year-old. Of course, it's better than a hand turkey, but it is hard pressed to look at. Like, that is the threat of the movie that it's based upon, based around, and it is jarring. Like I said, it goes back to like the early Sci-Fi Channel. Like I mentioned, pterodactyl. And Ian, if you want to throw up the pterodactyl, and that was 2004, 2005, and again, there's a little bit of semblance to an actual pterodactyl. I mean, of course, you have Sci-Fi Channel money, so there's a little bit more. I believe Coolio was in that one too, so there's a little bit more of a budget per se. But again, again comparing a little indie movie of like $20,000 to a Sci-Fi Channel movie that's definitely probably a little bit higher on the budget. So you still have to grade on a curve. But again, that came out 5 years prior. I mean, you could have done a little bit more with Mr. Quetzalcoatl there. But go ahead and turn him back to Mr. Q. So the whole idea of what's going on is that they have to perform a sacrifice to send Mr. Q back to his sleep chamber. And one of the friends of Otzi, she is the descendant of the bloodline, basically, or she is like purebred Aztec Mayan, and they have to perform the sacrifice on her. And of course, she, when they go to do the press briefing with the lieutenant, not the lieutenant, let's see, what's his name? General Ollendorf. And like they do this briefing about what the creature is and what they found and everything else. And like she grabs the mask and it puts her under a spell and she falls. So she's connected to the mask because of her heritage and her bloodline. And basically they have to do this ancient Mayan, Aztec ritual where she has to put the beast to sleep in a sense. And it's the ending is, again, another one of those moments that's hard pressed because it's against a green screen. Everything's green screen. A lot of the outside scenes were like that. So you have to get past that as well. And again, the ending is just kind of unfulfilling, even though it is, like I said, it's quick. It's 67 minutes, but I kind of expected a little bit more of the ending where because she's going through like this, like, why does it have to be me? I don't want to do this. Why couldn't you tell me, why do you have to have a girl? She's, just like giving her heart out to her father about like why does it have to be me? Why is all this on my shoulders basically? And she's kind of down and sad and doesn't know what to do. I kind of wish she went into that a little bit longer, um, but it just kind of they skip over it and like, oh, she's gonna do it now. Um, but besides that, again, it's just the monster, the effects, the audio, just a lot of flaws that you really have to sink your teeth and bite your tongue and just like really have to grin and bear it. Um, but I think, like I said, it has a decent story. It is pretty quick paced. I think it has a solid 45 minutes when they build up everything and um, they do the scanning and they do the drilling and they go down and they see the temple and all the stuff like that. But it's very very basic. Like they don't show the drill. They just look down at a table that is just literally probably just a table with like a bunch of stuff on it. Um, a lot of probably scripts and stuff. So they're really like it's all you know talked and not shown. Um, it's very simplistic in that manner. Like again, when you get down there and you see the rune wall with all the runes on it, it's just like one straight pillar with like a few runes on it. Um, you don't really see too much of it. It's like they're very being held back and constraint with their showing too much. It's all implied. A lot of the uh, dialogue and effects work. Besides, once the creature comes out of the ground and starts running amok and attacking the city, and then you have again the tanks and the building blowing up and the fire effects and the rockets and the gunfire. It's very again cheap, um, and it's just something that's just like it's hard pressed. I mean, that's a whole thing. Honestly, the film's you have to really it's hard pressed. I mean, there's good and bad, and you really have to swallow the bad to get to the get the little chunk of goodness out of it because it's very like I said freshman basic stuff. The acting is basic. The script is solid. The effects, the audio. There's just a lot of issues with the film, and it's going to be hard for someone not like myself or Ian to really has a good perception of this type of film to really persevere all the way to the end. And I think there's good moments sprinkled here and there. It's just really just like unraveled in a bunch of other stuff. It's like you're going in for a bite of candy and like there's like rocks in it. Like who put rocks in my candy? It's a bad analogy, but still, it's just like you're enjoying some aspects of it, and then you just get like something just like hard. Like it's jagged and so it's hard, tough to swallow. But Ian, I'll let you have your thoughts on the monster and everything else spoiler related that you want to get into.
Yeah, no. It I mean, okay, yeah, the monster looked not great. And but that's to be expected, It's they got to work with what they got to work with, and I get that. So I'm not going to like fault them, but it was still pretty like funny when I saw
Yeah,
that, and I was like, because there it was all this build up, and then you're just like,
it's like a wet
oh
fart.
yeah, it's like, oh okay,
Yeah,
but it is.
and I don't mean a wet fart as in like like it's bad. I'm just saying like you have this build up and like oh it's a little stinky.
Yeah, no, 100%, and I can't wait to see what like this guy's done after this, and because I mean I was pretty interested in this, and I'm like, I always like watching these movies and then like going back and uh, seeing all their other stuff and see how they're like went from their debut to uh, what they're doing now, you know.
Yeah.
And it's that's one of the things that I've just loved seeing, like people growing as a, you know, film director. So
Yeah. Like again, like it has all this lore building and like journey, and then you get to the reveal of the monster and it's a bad N64 graphic. Like, ugh. It's like felt like I was playing a video game. Like, oh, I'm playing Turok, all the dinosaurs. But no,
yeah,
like again, like you mentioned, like you do want to, it's a first effort. So again, it has a lot of flaws, and it shows. It's hard to not. You have to. We have to go into the specifics of it because it is the main draw of the film is the creature, and like they tried, and I thought even with the monster reveal and shooting the electric lasers all over the place, sort of like King Ghidorah, um, shooting around, flying around, everything. I mean, it's still kind of like Birdemic level computer graphics, where it's just like it's bad. But I thought
yeah,
the story was intriguing. I liked where it went. I liked the military aspect, um, the sacrifice aspect that came soon after. Um, it's just like again a lot of just like again like I mentioned, just like that indie freshman issues with just the audio, not finding a good balance between the audio mixing, some of the cuts between one scene and another where it didn't feel natural. It just felt like say your line and then we're going to intercut you into this scene where that person doesn't line up well when certain characters are talking. um, some of the green screen effects, there's one moment where like the dad, he's in his ritual outfit and he's in the middle of the screen and then all of a sudden he just cuts to the left out of nowhere. So there's a lot of little editing choices. It's just like it's jarring. I mean, that's really the main word to describe the film. It's kind of jarring, um, not in a bad way. It's just like to really, you have to really sink your teeth into feeling like I can
yeah,
persevere through this. And it's just like one of those where it's just like if I want to enjoy the interesting story that's being presented, I'm gonna have to really hold my hands and nail it deep into something, to really get onto this ride. Because it's there. It's just everything else around it is just really messy. But it's not bad. It's not terrible so bad it's good messy. Even though the reveal of the monster is, like I said, it's funny when he comes out of there like, oh crap, that's what we're dealing with. But like it's honestly the monster effects are few and far between. It's more about the lore and then the sacrifice and then the military aspect, so that you get more of that than you do the creature effects. So it's sort of justified, and again, but it's still like everything else is just messy. The acting, the audio, the editing, and again, the computer effects. It is what it is. It's for its time, even though it is 2010, so it should be a little bit better. But it's faults. It has its faults, and it just wears it on its sleeves. All its flaws and faults and everything, all its shortcomings, it wears it. But it's not one of those like it's just like this is our effort. We tried, and they gave it their all. And I think for what it is, again, it is what it is. I mean, it's a subject of its time. I'm assuming. I mean, it's a first film effort. I thought again the story and the backstory and the lore is solid. I thought it was solid, even though I'm repeating myself. But like that's like the main thing that I can really just like grasp on is like the backstory and the lore and getting Kyle and Otzi to their relationship and getting involved with the military and then the generals and the lieutenants, and then they go down into the tunnels, and like there was a lot of stuff that kept you interested in the story as it progressed. And for a short watch, like again, there's like not really many dull moments as the film kept going. Um, I mean, you kind of, I mean, even as I do, if I do say like the monster didn't look the best, you kind of wanted a little bit more action towards the last act. He
Yeah.
comes out, he attacks the military base, and then he attacks the city, and then he goes away for a while, and then he gets put away into his slumber. And like there could have been a little bit more mayhem instead of just like to mellow out like all the attacks and what we got to do with the government and military coming involved. It's just like short lived because we got to introduce Ash, the girl that's got to be sacrificed, and like her short what she has to deal with, and like so there's a little bit more that they could have done, like added a little bit more of Ash and her ordeal of having to be sacrificed, and just dealing with it, and like okay fine. It just felt like she like I don't want to do it, and like I'm gonna do it, and then of course again more of the creature there, even though it wouldn't have looked the best, but it could have gave it a little bit more threat, as we usually say, like there need to be a little bit more of a threat, instead of just the two scenes of him attacking a few tanks and destroying a building. There could have just been a little bit more there, but overall, like I said, this is one where you really have to have a certain tolerance for low budget indie horror if you want to really persevere through this one. I think there's a good means to it if you really want to try, but if you can't stand the acting and all the issues that we've already mentioned, Mr. Q there, if you can't stand that, I mean, you're probably not going to dig it. But if you're able to have the tolerance like me and Ian did, there's some enjoyment in there. Like I said, it's not so bad it's good. I do think there's, like I said, I think there's good intentions as the Bob and wanted to make that throwback 50s kaiju. It's just very under budget for what the budget needed to be to make this, or just like the effects. Like you could have just had a person in a suit. I mean, you wouldn't have it. I don't know, but it just felt like there could have done more without going the little cheap route that you went with the Mr. Q there and the attacks. But Ian, I don't know if you have anything else to say.
I think we kind of covered everything that needed to be covered.
But that is going to do it for our 400th episode of Horror Night Oasis and our Monsters Day Marathon episode. We have one more for the last of the month coming up in a week, and we're always interested in to see what we have chosen. And again, like I said, this was episode 400. It was a special occasion, and we had to throw a Boneyard in there as always. And I'm looking forward to whatever our finale marathon choice might be. Ian, it has been, as always, it's been great talking with you for such an interesting show, and one that I don't know if that many people's going to sit through or even go out of their way to watch. But for nonetheless, it was enjoyable. And for those that's persevered and listened to this review, we appreciate it, and thank you again for allowing us into your homes and bringing this weird, obscure movie into your life that you never knew existed.
Yep,
that's one thing about the show.
400th episode.
Yeah, for Mr. 400. We always bring some interesting, if you want to go out there and rent it or buy it, have at it. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. I mean, I've done a lot of things with my money over the years, and especially for this show. And but it's always fun to talk about and bring these films to life. Maybe give them I don't know if it needs it. Well, this one needs a new coat of paint, but still, just to talk about it and give it its due. There's not that much information out there, and it fit for what we needed it to be. But again, we appreciate everyone for listening, and we will see you next time as we finish our Monsters Day Marathon here on Horror Night Oasis.
Good night.